Sensuality is an enriching experience that transcends mere physical touch. It invites us to explore openness and vulnerability, creating deeper connections with others. By engaging in mindful touch, we enhance our awareness of each other's desires and boundaries. This practice cultivates intimacy as it encourages honest communication and emotional safety. Each caress becomes a dialogue between bodies, transcending words and allowing us to connect on a profound level. Embracing the art of sensuality fosters trust, reigniting passion and curiosity in relationships. It's a journey of discovery, inviting us to celebrate the beauty of human connection through the transformative power of touch.
Hey there everyone, welcome to Pleasure Principles. I'm your host Avik and here to dive deep into the elements of life that shape our confidence, happiness and vitality. So today we are unlocking a topic that's more than just a skin deep. It's all about tackling adult acne in a way that's natural, empowering and truly transformative for your confidence, attraction and self-esteem. So joining us today is Leigh Brandon. So welcome to the show, Brandon.
Thank you, Avik. Thanks for having me on the show.
Lovely. So Brandon, before we start, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all of our listeners. Listeners, Brandon is a holistic health expert with over 2 decades of experience in uncovering the real solutions for the issues that modern medicine often fails short on. So, after battling severe cystic acne himself, he found his way to clear skin, confidence, and a fulfilling life through natural holistic practices. And he's here to share those insights with us. So, let's get ready to challenge conventional wisdom and get inspired to heal from inside out. So, are you ready? Let's jump in. Why to wait? Welcome to the show again, Brandon.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me.
Lovely. So Brandon, I'll quickly start with your story. I mean, what's your story with the acne? I mean, how did it impact your confidence and self-esteem?
Yeah, so at the age of 13 is when it really started for me. And, I can remember a Sunday evening at home, I was sat between my parents and they kind of noticed that I had like blackheads on my nose, and I had my dad on one side, my mum on the other side, and they were squeezing all the blackheads on my nose.
Okay.
And that was the start for me. And I kind of thought, you start going through puberty, it's kind of a normal thing, right? That's kind of what you think. And I wasn't really prepared for what was to come. So it got worse. It wasn't just blackheads, but I started getting whiteheads, and they were quite inflamed and nasty. And so my mum took me to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Don't worry, we can solve this for you, no problem. Here's a cream and here's a cleanser. Go off, you'll be fine." And I started using those, and nothing really happened apart from my skin got even more red. It got dry, it got flaky, it was painful. And the acne, actually, if anything, got worse.
Yeah.
So after a period of time, my mum took me back and she said, "Look, it's not working. What can we do now?" And so the doctor said, "Oh, okay, don't worry. I've got the solution. Here's some antibiotics. That will sort it. Absolutely no problem." So I was very optimistic and felt really good, leaving the doctor's office, and I started taking the antibiotics. And to be honest, it cleared very quickly. And I thought, great, I've solved the problem.
Yeah.
But about 6 weeks in, it came back, and I'm still taking the antibiotics, and the acne came back, and it came back even worse. So that was pretty bad. And then, I got a little bit older, and you start to go out with your friends, and you go to pubs and clubs, and you start, meeting girls and things like that. And there was some Friday or Saturday nights that my skin was so bad, I could not even go out. I couldn't face the world with, I had acne the size of like a ping pong ball on my forehead, and several of them. So that was pretty depressing because, again, when you're young and all your friends are going out and having fun, staying home in your bedroom on your own was pretty depressing. And then, I leave school, I start work, and you go for a job interview.
Exactly.
And what tends to happen is, you got a job interview coming up, and you're saying to yourself, "Oh, please, 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 let my skin be good on this day," right? And you start stressing about it. Well, one of the things that can cause acne is stress.
Yeah.
So, you wake up in the morning with a job interview, and you go and look in the mirror, and it's, oh no, this is my worst nightmare. And what I found was, first of all, my own confidence was knocked because of the way I was looking. But I also felt, and I don't know if it was just my interpretation of the situation or whether it was real, but I felt like they were looking at me as if to say, what are you doing here? You're a teenager, And even though I was going for jobs or even job promotions that I felt, I was probably the best candidate for the job, I wasn't getting a job. So it was costing me money, or at least I felt it was costing me money, and a lot of money. And then, of course, you're in your 20s, you might be in a relationship, and then your skin gets really bad. And then next thing you know, you're not in a relationship anymore, right? And you kind of think, well, to be honest, I don't blame her for dumping me. Look at the state of me. I look terrible. And so that was pretty much my life from the age of 13 to 31. Now, when I was at school, just to go back to school days, so everyone had a nickname at school, right? Well, my nickname was Zit because I had the worst acne in my year at school. So, the 18 years was, on the bad days, was terrible, but I also had good days. But most of those 18 years, I had some level of acne. The summer times were better for me. The more sun I got, the better my skin was. I basically spent 18 years of my life stressing, probably spending an hour in front of a mirror every day. You kind of look at yourself, think, should I squeeze that spot? Should I not squeeze it? And, it's kind of a real mental trauma that you go through each day, worrying about how your skin's going to look like, and also how other people are going to perceive you. I think that's probably almost the worst thing. It's like, how are people going to perceive you as well? Because sometimes it'll be so bad, you walk along and you can just see everyone looking at you as if to say, oh my God, look at this guy. It's terrible, So that was really my story of, my experience of having acne myself. And at the age of 31, I've been working as a personal trainer for about 5 years. So I was into nutrition, and I would turn up for work and I'd feel like a fraud because I should have been, the pinnacle of health, right? And my skin on my face wasn't projecting that. And luckily, I went to a conference at Loughborough University, which is very famous in England for being the best sports science university in the country. And there was a guy there that I knew of him. I'd been reading many of his articles before this, but he was doing a lecture on nutrition. And he was saying that, the foods that you eat affect your hormones affect your skin. Things like food sensitivities can affect your skin, and they can cause things like acne. Yeah. And I was thinking, oh, hang on a minute. I've asked my doctor so many times as to, is there anything I'm eating that's causing my acne? And my doctor would say, no, it's got absolutely nothing to do with what you're eating.
Exactly.
And there's this guy saying the complete opposite. So I went back home after the conference and I went to see a guy locally to me, and he ran lots of tests. And after I'd been there a few hours, he came in and he said, right, the first thing you need to do, you've got to stop taking those antibiotics because they're not doing you any good. He said, the next thing is you've got a fungal infection, so we need to deal with that. And finally, you're intolerant or sensitive to all these foods, and he held up a list of all these foods that my body was basically having an inflammatory response to. Yeah. So he said, well, the good news is these are the foods that you can eat. So what I did was I switched my diet pretty much overnight. And within about 2 weeks, my skin cleared up.
Oh, wow.
So I'd had acne for 18 years, and purely by changing what I was eating, solved my acne very quickly. Now, I'm not going to say that's going to be the case for everybody because everybody's different. But that was really my story. And then when I went through that experience myself, and I was already working in health, and I went on to study other things like functional medicine, and I just thought I need to help other people that were in the situation that I was in for 18 years. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. I mean, I work with different types of clients, but I've been working, I would say, helping people with acne since about 2008. So it's been about 16 years that I've been helping people overcome acne.
Wow, that's a lovely journey. I would say thank you for sharing. And also, let's address the skeptics, right? So, is it really possible to cure acne naturally without relying on harsh medicines?
Absolutely. I mean, I've helped, I don't know how many people, probably close to 100. And what they all have in common is that they've all, before they came to see me, they've all tried other methods, whether it's cleansers, acne creams. A lot of women use birth control pills. There's Accutane, there's spironolactone. There's all these what's called acne products, and they've already tried all that, and it hasn't worked. Now, some of them might work temporarily. So for women, the birth control pill is relatively effective. Doesn't work for all women, but it can be effective at getting rid of the acne. But it comes with side effects, and pretty serious ones as well, if it's used long term.
True.
But the other issue is, as soon as you stop taking it, the acne comes back, and it comes back a lot worse than it was before. So, you know, with any approach, you've got to look at the risks and the benefits. But you know, the key thing to the approach that I use with people is that you've got to get to the root cause of the problem, and that isn't the approach of pharmaceuticals. The pharmaceutical approach is to treat the symptom. So the analogy I like to use, it's a bit like, you know, when you've got acne, it's a bit like, you know, if you're driving your car and the engine warning light comes on the dashboard, it tells you that there's an issue with the engine. So if you were driving your car and you saw the warning light on the dashboard, the sensible thing to do would be to take it to a mechanic. They would look at the engine, they would fix the engine, and then you take the car back and off you go, and they've solved it at the root cause. Now, that's how I work with people. Okay, I look under the bonnet. I try and find out the root cause of the problem and help the person reverse that. The way the medical system works, in the analogy, if you imagine your engine warning light comes on in your car and you take it to a mechanic, the medical approach would either be to put a piece of black tape over the light, or to cut the wire to the bulb of the light on the dashboard. So it's not treating the engine, it's treating the light, just making sure you can't see the light. So, you know, imagine if you did that, what would happen eventually is that your engine would probably blow up, and now that car's no good. Now, in the human body, if you're masking the symptom of acne, you're not dealing with the root cause. What you're doing is you're kicking the problem, or you're kicking the can down the road, so to speak. And maybe 10, 20, 30 years down the line, you might get a very serious illness that could be life-threatening because you didn't deal with the acne at the root cause level.
Wow. So that means you're saying, like, if we are not taking care of this at the very soon, or maybe at the root cause level, then definitely it will come back again in the near future. Right?
Yeah. Or I mean, you can deal with the acne symptoms in some instances. So for some people, the treatments that they use can work. I mean, again, my experience, most of the time, they might work for a very short period of time. But the key issue with it is that, yes, the acne could come back, but you could get a much worse condition. So a lot of the same things that cause acne also cause very serious diseases. So diseases that, you know, can be fatal.
Got it. Lovely. And also, like, listeners often feel hopeless with the adult, right? So, what's the first mindset shift that you would suggest for taking control?
I think the first thing that people need to do in terms of a mind shift is to appreciate what I've just been saying, is that you really need to treat it at the root cause level rather than treat it at the symptom level. Because again, what I've seen time and time and time again is people trying all of the, let's call them traditional treatments, the creams, the cleansers, the antibiotics, the birth control pills, and they're at the end of their tether because it hasn't worked. And I hear a lot of people saying, but I've tried everything and nothing has worked. Now, most of the time when I hear people say, I've tried everything, now if I speak to them and I say, okay, so you've tried everything, but what are those things?
Yeah.
Now, those things are normally, again, the acne creams, the cleansers, the spironolactone, the Accutane, all those kind of treatments. And I say, well, you might feel like you've tried everything, but it sounds like you haven't tried anything that I would do with you, right? It's a completely different approach. So there is always light at the end of the tunnel, but you do need to treat it at the root cause level. Now, I guess the downside to finding out the root cause is that you often need someone who knows what they're doing to help you find the root cause of the problem. Okay.
Right.
So, and I can remember when I was about 25, 26, and I just bought my first home in London. And I remember I was so desperate. I remember thinking I would remortgage my home if someone would say, I can guarantee I can help you get rid of your acne, right? So I was willing to spend £25,000 if someone guaranteed they could get rid of my acne. I was that desperate. Now, I'm not saying it costs that much to find out. For me, I went to a conference, I got some information, I went to see one guy, I got some more information, and that was enough for me. Now, again, I'm not going to say that that's going to be the case for everyone, because there's lots of different potential things that can cause acne. There's nearly always a nutritional component. Now, what you eat affects your hormones, as I mentioned earlier. Now, people talk about hormonal acne. I don't like to give acne specific names, but I actually think there's a hormonal component to all acne. So, food is key. I mean, it's quite interesting you mentioned mindset, because mindset is the most important thing, in my opinion, when it comes to reversing your acne. Because for some people, the changes that you need to make in terms of nutrition and lifestyle can be quite challenging to do. So if you don't have the right mindset right from the beginning, it can be very difficult to go through that period of change, because as humans, generally, we don't like change. Generally, we like to stay in a comfort zone. But as I say to a lot of my clients, no one's ever really achieved anything substantial by staying in your comfort zone. It's getting out of that comfort zone that you actually achieve amazing things. So for me, number one thing people need to address is their mindset. And I go through a whole series of goal setting and setting core values and identifying potential obstacles even before they arise, and planning on what the person's going to do once those obstacles come up. Because if an obstacle comes up and they've already planned for it, it's not going to be a problem. Once I've worked with someone on their mindset, the next thing is the nutrition. So eating good quality, eating right for your own individual needs. So I teach people how to eat right for their own individual needs, because we're all different, right? So, you and I, Avik, we are very different. We've got different color skin. We're from different parts of the world. Our ancestors would have eaten very different diets. So our own nutritional requirements will be different.
Sure.
Once someone has got their diet right, the next thing I try and help people to do is to optimize the microbiome in their gut. So the predominantly the bacteria in their gut, because what goes in your gut gets expressed on your skin. So if there's a lot of bacteria in your gut that releases a toxin. So there's a toxin called lipopolysaccharides, and if you've got a leaky gut, then what can happen is those toxins can escape into your bloodstream.
Yeah.
They can overload the liver. Now, what can then happen is, because your liver is also it also metabolizes hormones, you can end up with an excess of hormones. Now, again, there are many hormones that can stimulate the sebaceous glands on the skin, which secretes the oil or sebum, that if there's too much of it can cause acne.
Okay.
The other thing as well is, again, if there's too much toxin in the system, the body will try and release it through the skin. And again, that in itself as well can cause acne. So balancing the gut microbiome is really important. And then another thing that's very important is that toxins is a big factor. Hormones are a big factor. Toxins are a big factor. So any kind of toxin that's in high levels in the body needs to be excreted. So one that I find quite a lot in people is mercury toxicity.
Okay.
And I had a lady that came to see me a few years ago. She was 27. She'd had good skin her entire life. She was getting married 6 months later.
Okay.
And when she came to see me, she had a face full of acne for the first time in her life, just after she had arranged her wedding. And of course, she was panicking because she didn't want to have bad skin on her wedding day, didn't want to be looking bad in all the wedding photos. And, we changed her diet, we worked on the gut microbiome, and things weren't really shifting as well as either of us liked. And then I ran a test on her for toxicity, and her mercury levels were literally off the scale. Now, all the other heavy metals were fine. It was just mercury. So I gave her some supplements to help release the mercury from her blood. And within, I think it was about 6 weeks, her skin was back to normal. So one of the things I help people do is identify the toxins that are in their environment. Because again, today we are bombarded by toxins, unfortunately. And then once we've minimized those, what I help people to do is to run detox protocols to really try and get as much toxin out of the body as possible. So that forms the majority of what I do with clients as well. I also teach them what they should or shouldn't put on their skin. But for me, that's the least important thing, which is interesting when you think most people think that that's the first thing they should do. So I teach people to stop using toxic products on their skin, which again, most people use. And just to give your audience a bit of an idea. So for instance, I try and get people to not wash their face at all, just water. And my favorite thing to put on the skin after you've had a shower or a bath is aloe vera gel. And the reason that's good is because it's moisturizing, it's very cooling, it's anti-inflammatory, and it slightly acidifies the skin. So to have good skin, you want it to be slightly acidic. And a lot of these cleansers and creams and shower gels and things like that people tend to use, it alkalizes the skin, and that's not good. That will actually increase the likelihood of acne. So very briefly, that's kind of the steps that I take people through to get their skin back to how they want it to be.
Wow, that's great, lovely. Okay, so for someone who is starting out this journey, what's one actionable step they can take today?
I would say for most people, the most important thing is mindset, or at least that's the place people should start. So write down what goal you want to achieve. And what I mean by that is write down how you want your skin to be, not how it is now, not what you don't want on your skin, how you want it to be. So as an example, if you were to say, I want my skin to be blemish free, well, blemishes is what you don't want. So don't use that word. So I would tend to ask someone, if you don't want blemishes, how do you want it to look? And most people tend to say something like, I would like my skin to be clear. And they might say, I want it to be moisturized, or whatever words they use. And then once you've got a clear idea of how you want it to be, ask yourself, why do you want it to be like that? What difference is it going to make to your life? How are you going to benefit? How is it going to make your life better? And you might say, it might be, I feel more attractive, I feel more confident, I feel I've got more self-esteem. And you say, great, okay, what's that going to do for you? Well, I'll probably perform better at work, I'll feel more confident in my relationship, etc., etc. Because it's important to understand the why. Why do you want it? Because that helps you to motivate yourself to do the other things that you need to do to be successful. So I'd say setting clear goals is the first thing. The next most important thing is changing your diet. So that could be trying to get food of the highest quality that you can get. So possibly organic, and try to buy foods of one ingredient. So what I mean by that is, if you're buying something in a packet or a box, and it's got multiple ingredients, the chances are that's not going to be particularly good for you. So buy single ingredient foods and cook food yourself. Don't expect someone else to do it. Don't buy convenience food. Don't buy junk food, fast food. Buy, real food would be the place to start. Another key aspect that I haven't mentioned yet, and this is kind of why I was saying you've got to eat right for your own individual needs, is because you want to balance your blood sugar levels. So after you've eaten, you should feel sustained for at least 2 hours. Okay, you shouldn't feel hungry in between eating and 2 hours afterwards. You shouldn't have cravings. You shouldn't be wanting sugar. You shouldn't feel tired. You shouldn't be falling asleep. So if you monitor what you eat and you're feeling good after each meal, up to 2 hours afterwards, the meal that you're eating is probably quite good for you. If, however, you are feeling sluggish or tired or hungry, or you're craving other foods, what it's suggesting is that your ratios of fats, proteins, and carbohydrates probably isn't quite right for you. Yeah. And when you get that right, it really helps you to balance your blood sugar. And that's partly why, when you balance your blood sugar, you don't feel like you need something sweet, or you don't feel hungry, because your blood sugar is nice and balanced. And the reason that's important is, again, because another hormone that can cause acne is insulin. So if your blood sugar levels are going up quite a lot, your pancreas will secrete insulin to bring that back down under control, but the insulin will stimulate your sebaceous glands, and that will increase the likelihood of acne. So places to start: mindset, set some goals, eat good quality food, buy single ingredient foods, and make sure that your meals are making you feel sustained afterwards.
That's really perfect. Great. So thank you so much, Leigh, for taking us this eye-opening journey, and from rebuilding confidence to redefining the attraction. So that's really, really great. And for the listeners, I would love to mention that remember that a clear path to the confidence and attraction is definitely possible, and it doesn't have to involve harsh chemicals or one-size-fits-all. So thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time, take care and stay radiant. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.